Creepypasta nightmares brought to life. Once upon a time, stories were written in books, locked in libraries, told by campfires. But the internet changed that. On forums, in hidden threads, and whispered corners of websites, a new kind of horror was born. Anonymous tales, digital folklore, shadows that spread through glowing screens. We call them creepypastas, short, terrifying stories that seemed harmless enough until people started claiming they were real. Tonight, I'll tell you about the creepypasta nightmares that refused to stay fiction and stepped slowly into life. 1. Slender Man, the Tall Shadow. It began as a Photoshop contest in 2009. A tall, faceless man, stretched and unnatural, lurking behind children in old black and white photos. The internet gave him a name, Slender Man. At first, he was just a story, a digital ghost passed between blogs and forums. But then, children began to report seeing him, in backyards, in forests, standing silently at the edges of playgrounds. The legend grew. He was said to stalk, to drive madness, to take the young. And in 2014, the story spilled into reality. Two 12-year-old girls in Wisconsin lured their friend into the woods, stabbing her 19 times. When questioned, they said it was to appease Slender Man. The victims survived, but the line between fiction and belief was forever shattered. Slender Man wasn't just a tale anymore. He was proof that a story can escape the screen. 2. Ben Drowned, the Haunted Cartridge. Video games are supposed to be fun, safe escapes, but one legend claimed otherwise. In 2010, a college student named Alex bought a used Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask cartridge. At first, the game played normally, until strange things began happening. The music distorted. Characters appeared where they shouldn't. Link, the hero, would sometimes die in ways. 3. Smile Dog, the Cursed Image. The internet is filled with strange pictures, but one of them became a legend so terrifying people swore it ruined their lives. It was known as smile.jpg. The image was simple, a dog with human-like teeth grinning in the dark, too wide, too wrong. But the story went deeper. Whoever looked at the image claimed they began to suffer. Panic attacks, hallucinations, voices in the night whispering, "Spread the word." Some said they dreamed of the dog, crouched at the foot of their bed, grinning silently until they woke in tears. The legend spread. A cursed file, not a ghost. A monster not in the woods, but in the pixels of a screen. And maybe that's why it was scarier than most. You didn't have to believe in ghosts to fear Smile Dog. You just had to click the wrong link. 4. Candle Cove, the Forgotten Show. On a strange forum in the early 2000s, people began remembering a children's TV show called Candle Cove. It featured puppets, pirates, and a villain called the Skin Taker. At first, it sounded innocent, just a fuzzy memory from childhood. But as more people joined the thread, details grew darker. Episodes filled with screaming, a finale where the puppets stared silently at the camera for half an hour. Finally, one user asked their mother about the show. She froze, then replied, "You always said you were watching Candle Cove, but when I checked, it was just static on the TV." To this day, people argue whether Candle Cove ever existed or if it was a shared hallucination stitched from old fears. But what unsettles most isn't whether it was real, it's how many people remember it the same way. 5. Russian Sleep Experiment, the Chamber of Madness. It's one of the most famous creepypastas ever written. But it's not just a story, it feels like a report. In the 1940s, Soviet scientists supposedly locked political prisoners in a sealed chamber, keeping them awake with a gas. Days passed, then weeks. At first, the prisoners begged for freedom. Then they stopped speaking altogether. By day 15, they screamed until their vocal cords tore. By day 20, they had mutilated themselves, digging into their own flesh, eating parts of their bodies. When the scientists finally opened the chamber, only a few remained alive, skin shredded, eyes wide, smiling. And their final words? "We are you." Historians dismiss it as fiction. No records exist, no proof. But the details were so clinical, so believable, that people couldn't let it go. And even now, whispers spread that the experiment wasn't fiction at all. Just another secret buried by history. These were meant to be stories, harmless words. But stories spread. They grow. They take root in our minds until they're more real than memory. Creepypastas are supposed to end when you close the screen. But if that were true, why do so many people swear they've seen them? The tall man in the woods, the children at the door, the smiling dog at the foot of the bed. Perhaps they weren't born from imagination. Perhaps they were always there, waiting for the right storyteller to set them free.